Question number 5 is from statistics. It says the table shows information about mass m grams of each of 120 letters. So we have a grouped data. We can see that it's mass in m grams. If you remember, for a group data, mean, because it's mean mass, so I'm going to say m bar, it's always equals to summation fx over summation f. So what do we need to do is we will first make a column of frequency times whatsoever the data is plotted. So it is mass right now, so I'm gonna make the column of fx, that means frequency times mass, but I need a single value for mass. Whenever we have the classes intervals, what do we mean by class intervals? We can see it's a range of data, right? It's not a single value for the data here. That means we need a single value in order to calculate fx. We need a single value in order to multiply frequency with that value. So what would that value be? It's always the middle value. Okay, it is the class mark. So 0 plus 50 divided by 2 would be 25. That's the mid value. 50 plus 100 divided by 2, it would be 75. So I'm going to write down the middle value for each of the class. And this one would be 350. Then I'll make a row for fx. That means I'll multiply frequency with that middle value. So 43 times 25 is 1075. 31 times 75, 2325. 25 times 150, 3750. And then 21 times 350, that's 7350. So summation fx means I will sum all the values of fx. So 1075 plus 2325 plus 3750 plus 7350 divided by summation f, that means sum of all values of frequency, and it was 120. We can see that if you want to add all these up, 43 plus 31 plus 25 plus 21, it's going to end up in 120 anyways. The final answer would be 1075 plus 2325 plus 3750 plus 7350 divided by 120 gives me 120.833. In three significant figures, it will be 121 grams. Part B says Idris draws a histogram to show this information. He makes the height of the first bar 17.2 centimeters. Calculate the height of each of the remaining bars. Now we can see it is again from histogram, and then there were two types of histogram. For histogram, we always first have to have a look at class width. Okay, so we can see the class width over here. Class width is basically the difference in the upper class boundary and the lower class boundary, if you guys remember. So 50 minus 0, that's 50. 100 minus 50, that's 50. 200 minus 100, that's 100. So see, it's not equal class width. That means in this scenario, the histogram should have, on the y-axis it should be frequency density, and on the x-axis it should be classes, right? So they have provided us the height of the first bar. It's 17.2. Let's calculate the frequency density according to us, what it should be. So if I find it out, it should be frequency density. If you remember, it was equal to frequency over class width, and that is equal to 0.86. Now basically what have they done is they have provided us the scale that Idris has used. That means 17.2 centimeters. Let me just get rid of centimeters. I'm gonna write it on top. So 17.2 centimeters is representing a frequency density of 0.86. This is the scale that Iraj has used. We have to find the height of each of the remaining bars. Let's calculate the frequency density of each of the column first. So for this one, I'm just going to write down the frequency density on the top. So frequency density for this one, for the second column, it would be frequency, that is 31 divided by class width is 50. So 31 divided by 50 would be 0.62. For this one, it would be 25 divided by 100, that's 0.25. And then for this one, it would be 21 divided by 300, and that would be 0.07. So we just found out what is the frequency density in each case, but they have used different scale in order to draw that histogram on the actual diagram. So 17.2 centimeters was representing 0.86. What if the frequency density is 0.62? Let's say that is x. Cross multiply, find out x. It would be 17.2 times 0.62 divided by 0.86. That's 12.4. So it should represent 12.4 centimeters. The first column should be this one. Okay, using the same technique, I will find out the others as well. So 17.2 again, 0.86, that was the general scale. For the second column, the frequency density, if you remember, was 0.25. So 0.25, this would represent, okay, next let's cross multiply, x would be equals to 17.2 times 0.25 divided by 0.86, and that is equal to 5. And then again, the last one, I'm going to do it directly. So the frequency density is 0.07. So 17.2 times 0.07 divided by 0.86, and that would be 1.4. Okay, part 3, complete the cumulative frequency table. Now, what do we do in cumulative frequency? We just add up all the frequencies, right? So that's the frequency. Less than 50, we can see it's a frequency of 43. So 43 over here. Less than 100. What's the frequency less than 100? 43 plus 31, it would be 74. Less than 200. So 74 plus 25. I'll write it down here. 99. And then this should be 120, but we can cross check that as well. So 99 plus 21, and that should be 120. Okay. So after finding out the points, after determining the scale and finding out the points, remember, the cumulative frequency curve is always a curve with upper class boundary on the x-axis and cumulative frequency on the y-axis, as I previously mentioned. Okay, so the first point would be 50 and 43. So I've just plotted this point here. If you have a look, this is 50 and 43 was in between this thing. The scale was on the y-axis was 2 units, so that's why in between 42 and 44. So I plotted all the points and encircled them and then joined them via smooth curve. Okay, now let's move on to the next part of the question. It says, use the cumulative frequency diagram to find an estimate for the median. Now median is always the value of the data at 50% of the frequency. So total frequency was 120. 50% of 120 would be 60. So let's use red line. At 60, this is the value. Let's find out what is the value of data. Should be a straight line. Here you go. So what is this value? If I find out, scale was 10 units. So 50 is here, 60, and then this value is 70. So this should be 70. Upper quartile. So upper quartile is the 75% of the cumulative frequency, and then we have to correspond to the value of data over there. So 75%, let's use purple. 75% of 120. In other words, 3 by 4 of 120, and that would be 90. So 90 would be here. So at this line, what is the value of x? Let's find out. So if you observe, it's 150 here, 160 here. This would be 157 something. I'm gonna say 156 or 155. So let's go with 155. So 155. The 40th percentile, it's of 2 marks. Let's use different color. Maybe let's use green. So 40th percentile, that means 40 over 100 of what? Of 120, and this would be 48 if you calculate it. So the value of data at cumulative frequency of 48, scale was 2, remember? So 1 2 3 4 over here, what is the value here? Let's find out. It would be this value if you observe, and that is 10 20 30 40 exact 50. So I'm gonna go with 50. Okay, the number of letters with the mass m, where m is greater than 250 and less than equals to 400. So we have to find the frequency, the number of letters. Okay, let's see how many of the letters have the mass of 250, and then how many of the letters have mass of 400, and then we will subtract them both. All right, let's use some different color. Shocking pink. So at 250, 250 is here. So at this point, this is 250. What is the value of cumulative frequency at 250? And that is, the scale was 2, so 102, 4 and 106. So what is the value at 400? Let's go straight up here. The value over here, we can see that it's 118. See, 120, and this would be 118. So how many letters were in between this range? 118 minus 106. So 118, because it is of 2 marks, so I'm showing some working. So 118 minus 106, and the final answer would be 12. Okay, so that was question number 5. Question number 6 says the interior angle of a regular polygon is 156 degrees. Calculate the number of sides of this polygon. If you remember the formula for each interior angle of a regular polygon, it was 180 times n minus 2 divided by n. Okay, so I'm going to substitute the values where n is the number of sides. So each interior angle is provided to us, that is 156 degrees. So 156 equals to 180 times n minus 2 over n. Let's simplify it. There is a single denominator on both sides. I'm gonna cross multiply, and that would give me 156n equals to 180n minus 360. Shift it on the other side, it's going to be 156n minus 180n, and that would be negative 24n equals to negative 360. Divide negative 24 on the other side, it's going to be, these negatives will cancel out. So 360 divided by 24 should be 15. Yep, that's 15. Part B. Clearly it is some circle with some straight lines in it. That means we have to revise circle properties for this one. There were in total 8 or 9 circle properties, you can say. Revise them before jumping onto it. A, B, C lie on a circle. We can see that A, B, and C with a center O. Angle OBA is 52 degrees. So OBA, that's marked already. Calculate the angle ACB. ACB. Let's mark it. So we have to find this angle. Okay. Now in order to find this angle, I can see OA and OB, they both are radius. So if they both are radius, if this is 52, the angle opposite to this side should be 52 as well. So whenever you're dealing with angles, that means if it is bearing, circle properties, or parallel lines involved, whatsoever it is, always make sure you mark all the angles that are given in the question in the diagram and all the hidden knowns as well. Okay, so this is 52, this is 52. I can straight away find out this angle because it's a triangle. So 180 minus 52, and 52 is 104, and that is 76 degrees. So which angle is it? It's AOB, that is 76 degrees. And if you remember the property, if this is 76 degrees, have a look here, this chord AB or this segment AB is making this angle at the center. Let me show it. So this angle is being formed by this AB segment. Have a look here, like it's starting from here, touching the center, ending at B. That means AB chord or this segment AB is making the angle at center, that's 76, and then starting at A, touching the circumference at C, and then ending at B. So again, same chord is making one angle at the center, one at the circumference. And what was the property? The property was whenever same chord or same segment make any angle on the circumference, they all would be equal. But if it is making one angle at the center, the other at the circumference, angle at the center is always twice the angle at the circumference. So if this is 76 degrees, this should be half of it. So I'm gonna say ACB is equal to 76 divided by 2, and that is 38 degrees. Oops. Here you go. Part C. PQRST lie on a circle. We can see that PQRST. WSR is a straight line and angle WSP is 112. WSR is a straight line and WSP is 112. That means I can straight away find out this one, right? It would be 8 and 68. So 180 minus this thing because it's a straight line, right? Calculate the angle PTR. PTR. We have to find out this angle. Now have a look here. This PT chord, this PR. Just gonna make a dotted one just so that you can see. So this PR chord is making this T angle starting at P. Have a look here. Starts at P, ends at R, and touches the circumference. So that means this PTR is being formed by this PR chord, right? And if you remember, I just told you in the last example as well, in the last part, all the angles that are being formed by the same chord at the circumference would be equal. So see, starting at P, ending at R, touching the circumference again. So that means this angle would be same as this angle. So this should be 68 as well. So that means we straight away got angle PTR, that is 68 degrees. And because it's of 2 marks, I'm just going to show the working. I'll say PSR equals to 180 minus 112, and that is 68 degrees. And then I would say PSR equals to PTR equals to 68 degrees. Okay, let's move on. Part D says G, K, and M lie on the circle center O. So G, K, and M. Sorry, G, K, M. We can see that lie on the circle center O. F, G, H is a tangent to the circle at G. So F, G, H, it's a tangent. I can see that it's touching the circle at point G. And MG is parallel to OH. MG and OH are parallel. Show that triangle GKM. GKM. This triangle is mathematically similar to triangle OHG. So OHG and this triangle, they both are similar. We have to prove them. It's of 4 marks. It says give a geometrical reason for each of the statements you make. So for similarity, if you remember, there are 2 ways we can prove if the 2 figures are similar. The first one was, now this is related to similarity, right? Either we can prove the ratio of corresponding sides. No side is given, that means we cannot prove the ratio of corresponding sides, right? The second one was through AA or AAA. All 3 angles are equal. If we prove this thing, then we can say that the figures are similar. Now let's think about it. These 2 are parallel lines. This single line is intersecting them. What does that mean? If 2 parallel lines are being intersected by a single line, this one, that means angle properties are applicable. So Z being formed, this angle would be equal to this angle. So I'm going to mark the first equal angles and I'll write down in this statement. So MGO is equal to HOG. And why they are equal? Reason is they are alternate angles. That's the first statement. Let's have a look at any other angle. So have a look here. It's a circle property, if you remember, that the diameter, which is GK, because it's a straight line passing through center, ending 2 points at the circumference. So the diameter always makes 90 degree at the circumference. So this angle would be 90. So GMK is equals to 90 degrees. What's the reason? The reason is angle formed by diameter at the circumference. Is always 90. And the second angle, if you have a look here, this angle OGH, that's equals to 90 as well. Why? The reason is, if you remember, radius always makes 90 degrees with the tangent. Okay, so I'm going to say radius makes 90 degree with the tangent always. So GMK equals to OGH. equals to 90 degrees, and in bracket I'll give the reason proved above. So first statement, second statement, third angle, you can say hence, or the third angle was we proved this angle is equal to this angle is equal to this. So that means the third angle, that is K. So I'm going to say MKG equals to GHO and why they are equal? Sum of angles in a triangle is 180 degrees, right? Hence, by the properties AAA or AAA, triangle GKM is similar to triangle OHG. Now this statement is very important. Please make sure that when you're writing this statement, all the corresponding angles should be written in the appropriate place. Okay, so see why this statement, angle G should be equal to angle O, which we can see that angle G in the in this triangle GMK, it's equal to angle O. Perfect. Angle K should be equals to angle H. K is equals to H. Yep. And then the last thing is angle M should be equals to angle G. M is equal to G. So this statement is perfectly fine. So this is how you always attempt the questions for similarity as well. Whenever you have to give the reasons, you provide the statement and then in bracket you give them the reason. Okay. Alrighty. Question number 7 says, two rectangular picture frames are mathematically similar. Areas of the frames are this one and this one. Let's call that A1 and let's call that A2. The width of the smaller frame is this much. Calculate the width of the larger frame. So this is related to similarity again. Revise the topic please. Similar figures. Area of two similar figures is related by the formula A1 by A2. Let's call that AL, that means a large area of the larger figure divided by area of small figure is equals to, because we have width, so I'm going to say width of larger figure over width of smaller figure whole square. There was only one case where we did not take the square of the dimension, and that was the figures or the triangles with same height. Kindly just revise that concept as well, okay, which is not being applicable over here, but just a quick recap. Anyway, so area of larger frame was 1134 divided by smaller frame was 350 equals to width of larger, we do not know that, let's call that x, over the smaller one was 17.5 centimeters whole square. Making x subject from here, I'll divide this and then take square root. So 1134 divided by 350, and then if I take square root of the answer, I'll get 1.8, and then I'll times it by 17.5. So times 17.5, that's equal to 31.5 centimeters.